Hello guys, how are you doing? This is the Witness Without Identity channel. Today we're going to talk about Alan Dershowitz and Avenatti. Avenatti is an evil guy, and Alan Dershowitz is they're both evil people. They both are like very messed up people, and they are both fighting. It's beautiful to see that, like the devil trying to take down the devil. It's glorious, but you can check it out. You know, let me know what you think, and I'm going to show you the video when they are fighting with each other. It's like a video on CNN. It's quite interesting. Thank you.
Donald Trump and his one-time personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, and CNN's reporting from sources who say Cohen is claiming the president knew of the Trump Tower meeting, has thrown the president's former fixer back squarely in the spotlight for what he may or may not say to Robert Mueller, but also how he's treated his one-time client, Donald Trump. It's a subject of much debate that will take up now between two attorneys who are no stranger to the spotlight themselves in this story. Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' attorney, and Alan Dershowitz, who's emerged as one of the president's defenders at time. He's the author of the best-selling new book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump. Michael, in the past you've called Michael Cohen, quote, an absolute criminal thug. You've called him a co-conspirator. You're obviously in an ongoing legal battle with him on the Stormy Daniels case. In terms of this reporting and his claims about the president's knowledge of the Trump Tower meeting, do you think he's telling the truth here?
Well, it's a good question, Anderson. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I think he likely is telling the truth, but the guy has been all over the map for so many months and years that I think that as a witness, certainly there's questions as to his credibility.
Professor Dershowitz, if the reporting turns out to be true, and that's a big if, and the president did know about the meeting, there were others present to corroborate Cohen's story, isn't that a major problem? Or is that a major problem for the president and Donald Trump Jr., who between the two of them have denied the president's knowledge of the meeting 9 times?
Oh, it's a political problem, to be sure, but I don't think it's a legal problem. Even if the president knew of the meeting, knew exactly the role of the woman who was there, that she was representing the Russian government, and even knew that they were going to go to try to collect dirt that had already been gotten by the Russians on Hillary Clinton, that would be a political sin, but it wouldn't be a federal crime. And I think if this is the best that Cohen has to offer, I don't think he's going to be given immunity by the federal prosecutors. He may have to compose and not only sing in order to get that kind of immunity, because this isn't very much from a legal point of view. It's a big deal from a political and public relations point of view, but legally it's a 3 on a scale of 10 maybe.
Well, I mean, what's also interesting about Cohen's story on this, and again, if it turns out to be true, he claims that there are other people present who heard that as well. So if they're under oath, you know, I guess, you know, they could back up what Cohen has to say if in fact that is true.
And if it turns out there are no other people, right, that will affect his credibility as well. But I think the big picture is that even if everything he says is true, it's not a crime. You know, in my new book, The Case Against Impeaching Trump, I set out a hypothetical based on this possibility, a hypothetical of even if the president actively sought material, dirt on Hillary Clinton, terrible thing, but even if he sought it, but the dirt had already been gathered, and he wasn't asking them to hack the DNC or do anything criminal, that would not be a crime. It would show, quote, perhaps collusion, but there's nothing in the federal code that makes collusion itself a crime.
Well, Professor, I mean, about those tapes, you tweeted yesterday, quote, I didn't say Michael Avenatti was wrong, but that if he's right, how did he access that confidential information? Talking about there being more tapes. He implied there were more Trump tapes. Giuliani says there's only one with Trump's voice. Let's see who's right. Do you stand by that?
Well, I don't want to get personal at all, but I think it's hard to imagine how he could have lawfully gotten a hold of those tapes. He did, according to press reports, have a conversation with Mr. Cohen at a restaurant, and that raises some questions because, you know, you're not allowed to speak to somebody who's counseled, who has a lawyer, and ask him, do you want to work together to hurt Trump? So I don't know whether that occurred, but if it did occur, I think Michael has to do some explaining.
Michael?
Well, Alan, let me say this. You keep saying you don't want to get personal with me, and you keep getting personal with me, including on Fox the other night.
I was asked the question.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you, I don't appreciate it. I'm willing to put up my track record over the last 6 months in this case up against yours any day of the week. I have been very, very accurate in my predictions and the statements I've made and the facts. And the fact of the matter is, on Sunday, you expressed considerable doubt as to whether I knew what I was talking about. And within 48 hours, no, let me finish. And within 48 hours, I was proven right.
I said it was true. I said it was true what you're talking about, and that's why it needs some explanation. You did guarantee the American public back in May that President Trump would resign. We're watching our watches and waiting to see if that prediction comes true. That's the one prediction that you really staked your reputation on, so your reputation will turn on whether he does resign or not.
Well, Alan, let me tell you, I'm going to determine what my reputation turns on, not you. I've made many predictions that have been. Let me finish. I've made many predictions that have turned out to be true, and we got 2 years left in this president's term. And despite the fact that he thinks you write great books, we're going to see what really happens.
Well, Michael, I want to read you something that you tweeted back to the professor on Monday. You said, "I'm awaiting an apology from Alan Dershowitz and others who once again were proven wrong. I stated in late May during the presser there were multiple recordings, and that was confirmed today. Unlike others, including Mr. Trump, I don't make public statements that are false." Because it's now the Washington Post did report there are about 100 recordings. We don't know the full nature of those recordings.
Well, back on May, I think it was 29th, Anderson, I stood in front of the federal courthouse and I demanded the release of all of the Trump tapes, and I stated at the time there were multiple recordings, and now we know that there are indeed over 100 recordings that have been seized. And I also want to go back to something that was said earlier. This information on the Trump Tower meeting, that's not the best information Michael Cohen has. I can assure you of that.
How do you know that? That was my question. How can you assure us?
Again, I'm not going to tell you how I know these things, but you know what, Alan? If you want
you may have to tell the ethics committee that.
Alan,
you have to tell that to the ethics committee if they ask you how you had a conversation with a man who was represented by a lawyer and you didn't ask his lawyer's permission, and his lawyer is now apparently complaining about that. So you're going to have to answer some of these questions. It's not enough just for you to say selectively, I don't have to answer that question, but I will answer that question. Okay, let's not get personal, but let's understand that we have to have the truth. Yeah.
Michael, I want your response.
Alan, you really need to start talking only about things that you know about, as opposed to things that you have no knowledge about. You have no knowledge of the communications that went on between me and Michael Cohen's representatives long before that. No, you don't know what you're talking about, Alan. Long before that restaurant meeting. You have no idea about the communications that went on relating to a particular or proposed level of cooperation. You just make it up as you go along. You need to go back.
Let me ask you a specific question.
Let me finish. You need to go back. You need to go back and concentrate on what invites you're getting on Martha's Vineyard, since that appears to be what you're really good at.
Well, I'm about to head off to a party, so I have to leave in a minute. But let me tell you, are you saying specifically that you were given permission by Michael Cohen's lawyer to have that conversation with him in the restaurant? That's a question you should answer specifically, because if you weren't given permission to have that conversation with Michael Cohen, you may have to answer to an ethics committee about that conversation, because I taught legal ethics for 35 years and I know a lot about legal ethics, and the one thing I know is you're not allowed to have a conversation with somebody who's counseled without the specific approval of the client to have that a lawyer to have that conversation. So I think you have to explain that meeting.
Alan, guess who gave me permission? Michael Cohen. He gave me permission.
That's not enough. That's not enough.
Mike,
that's not enough under the rules of ethics.
Alan, once again, you don't know what you're talking about. And you know what I want to know? I want to know about the relationship between you and Donald Trump. I think you ought to disclose the extent of the relationship. How did you get that positive book? How did you get that positive book review? Why is it that you two appear to be such close friends now? And I think you ought to disclose what your relationship is.
I've met him 3 times in my life, all 3 times dealing with the Middle East. I have no relationship with him. But you have to tell you, I do know legal ethics, and getting permission from a counseled client to talk to that client is not enough. Well, I can tell you, I've been teaching legal ethics for a long time. About that, I am 100%
Michael, let me just ask you lastly, I want to ask you about the 3 additional women you say you're representing. You said that they're also paid hush money. Can you tell us any more when that hush money was allegedly paid, or anything else about the alleged relationships and any proof that they happened?
In 2015 and 2016, and I find it very interesting that we haven't seen a denial from Donald Trump or Michael Cohen all day. I would think that if I was wrong, we would have seen a denial. And Alan, I feel sorry for the students that you taught legal ethics to, by the way, because you didn't teach them the truth.
Well, they've become justices of the Supreme Court, judges, some of the most important people in America.
I'm sure they're very proud.
I'm sure they're very proud. I'm sure they're very proud. I wish you had been in my If you had been in my class, you would not have had that conversation with Michael Cohen.
All right.
Alan, I'm sure they're very proud. I'm sure they're very proud of your conduct
They
over
are.
the last 2 years. I'm sure.
Michael Avenatti, Professor
are.
Dershowitz,
They are.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Don't you like to see when
We are back with Alan Dershowitz, and before I ask my question, I wanted to speak.
don't you like to see when the devil is fighting the devil? It is quite interesting, right? And what's funny about the devil is like when the devil is fighting. The funny thing about the devil, it's like I don't know if it's like you have made a contract with the devil. Eventually, he's gonna get you. So Avenatti is mad at Dershowitz, and Dershowitz is more on the Trump team. Avenatti is more on the Stormy Daniels team. But Avenatti also is a dirty guy, and he's defending a porn star. And it's like the whole it's very messy. And it's kind of funny to me. And they hate each other, but it's like they're both devil. One guy called, how did you know Donald Trump? But Avenatti, you stole money, extort money too. It's not like you're better. It's like shocks against shocks, but it's funny. So in the next clip, I'm going to show you that Avenatti was found guilty. And it's kind of interesting to see that. It's like they found him guilty on a charge, and pretty extensive charges, very serious charges. So that's why I want to tell you about the world of the elite. We talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, we talk about all those people. They are all evil, they are all nefarious. There's a lot of like nefarious act in the elite world. You look at Donald Trump, you look at Alan Dershowitz, you look at Bill Clinton, you look at Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein. It's a club that surrounds us, and they own the news, they own the media, they own Bloomberg. It's quite fascinating to me, you know. Like it is interesting for us to dig into this, because it's like they are all connected. It's a very small group of people, and they are connected, and they own all the money, they have all the power, you know. Meanwhile, I'm here trying to make a YouTube video with a very very cheap studio. I'm doing my best. All right, take care. Look at the video about Avenatti guilty verdict from The View. This is going to be from The View.
Michael Avenatti was arrested yesterday, charged in an alleged extortion scheme to shake down Nike for $20 million. Now, this is on the heels of some fraud and embezzlement charges that were filed against him in Los Angeles on Friday. Now, he says he's going to be fully exonerated when the truth comes out. You know, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction is rather sadness, to say the truth, because here was a guy that brought Stormy Daniels to us, which informed us that Trump had paid hush money to keep her quiet about what he did with her while he was married to Melania and she was having a baby. And so it was good. I liked it. It was like, oh, good. We have somebody here who's going to tell some of the truth about this criminal that we have running the country.
Right.
So I'm sad that this is all happening now, because I know that Trump will use it against him to glorify himself and to make himself look better. So I don't like it. I don't like it.
I think it's sad what he did. The moment I first saw him on television,
that's sad too. There's a lot of sadness
I thought he
going
was,
around.
in my opinion, he came across to me as a sleazy con artist, and I felt bad for Stormy Daniels because I thought she had an incredibly important story to tell, and I thought in that moment, this is not the right person representing you. He will take advantage of you, take advantage of the media and the American people. That's exactly what we're seeing happen. This is all alleged.
Yeah.
But she ended up firing him. And I think it's a lesson to all of us of like, go with your instincts on things. And I think people are pressure. Like, we saw so much of this guy everywhere. And why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you why. Because he was able to take on Trump on the same level of, what's the word, hostility that Trump puts out.
Is that a good enough reason to give him?
It was one of the reasons.
I mean, I wanted to know more of the facts, so I actually pulled the litigation, and I think he's certainly in trouble. He has more trouble in California than he has in New York. This is the California indictment.
Yeah.
And this is the New York indictment.
And also,
right? So, but I haven't had the chance to finish reading the California one, but I read the New York one, and I was disgusted because as an attorney, you take an oath and you want to make sure that you do the best by your client. And certainly trying to extort Nike and also trying to, you steal money from your clients allegedly. Is
Two separate cases.
Two separate cases. The stealing money is New York, and trying to extort Nike is. What they say
is two different stories there, right?
Well, they are two different.
Yeah.
One to me felt like lawyer stuff.
You mean
like what lawyers? What lawyers do, and
it's
say
true he crossed the line.
He may have crossed the line, but many lawyers do. They say, if you don't settle with us, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to come after your family. This is what lawyers do. So that didn't freak me out. California is really where he has the problem.
Yeah, this is a problem.
There was a point in time I can remember being in an airport, and he was on MSNBC and CNN at the same time, which is almost unprecedented that someone would have that much media attention.
Right.
He came on this show. I've talked about this on air before. I thought he was a con artist. I thought he was sleazy. There's actually a gif of me like dry heaving at something he said that's going around the internet right now that I did on air that's being sent around. This is what I didn't like about him. I also agree that Stormy Daniels had a very important story to tell. I liked her when she came on the show, and I was the biggest skeptic.
Story.
Yes, she does. And I thought that I didn't understand why he was making so much money, and she was forced to continue stripping at lower level, low end strip clubs. Tour.
She liked it though.
No, I'm sorry, but I think I'm the only one at the table that has interviewed exotic dancers for a book. I believe that that's true. They work very hard.
How about I wasn't exotic? I was an exotic dancer.
Well,
I actually don't, because these women work very hard.
Who work and take care of their kids.
Very hard, and a lot of men take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And I believe that he took advantage of her. And by the way, she agrees. She says, knowing what I know now about Michael Avenatti, I'm saddened but not shocked by news reports that he's been criminally charged today. I made the decision more than a month ago to terminate his services after discovering that he dealt with me extremely dishonestly, and there will be more announcements to come. So my instincts on Michael Avenatti ended up being the same with where Stormy Daniels.
Well, here's the thing. He came, and the reason he was on the show is because he brought Stormy. Let's not forget that.
That's true.
That's the reason he was here. He wasn't here as a lawyer for America. He wasn't here. He was representing someone that we wanted to hear from.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to remember the roots of things.
That's why he was on CNN and MSNBC.
But it's important to
Can we agree that he's
remember.
not welcome back?
Well, I think he might be in jail.
Oh, well, fair enough.
We have a legal note. Avenatti posted a statement on Twitter this morning writing, I want to thank all of my supporters for your kind words and support today. It means a lot to me. I'm anxious for people to see what really happened. We never attempted to extort Nike, and when the evidence is disclosed, the public will learn the truth about Nike's crime and cover up. And I just want to reiterate, Stormy's story is still important. The fact that this president allegedly paid a hush payment to hide his affair with a porn star from the American people is still important.
Yeah.